Ignition. Liftoff.
Coming to you live from the White Picket Studios in Houston, Texas. This is the Realty Ruckus. If you are in any way, shape, or form involved in the real estate industry, this is the show for you. And now, your host, Alan Hernandez.
Good morning, Houston. How's everybody feeling today? Thank you guys very much for joining us out there on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live for today's show. We have a phenomenal show lined up for you guys today. We have all sorts of subjects and things to talk about, legal aspects to discuss. We got some doozies for you today, man.
Yes, we do.
I'm excited to throw some of this stuff your way. And let's not forget, everything that's happening. First of all, it's Friday, so let's be happy about that. Hopefully you guys have some cool stuff lined up for this weekend. Anybody doing anything fun? Hopefully. I mean, I checked the events. There's not a lot happening this weekend for some reason.
Well, I think everyone's still got the 4th of July hangover.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. So this is a good weekend for open houses. We have a handful of open houses happening this weekend, and then. Yeah, as you guys know, my kid turned 6. I can't believe it. I mean,
nice.
It's incredible how fast time flies when you're having a good time, man.
That is really fast.
So little Daniel turned 6 years old today. For those of you guys that know me and know my family,
Our little junior agent.
yeah, he's our little junior agent.
I forgot about that.
Exactly.
Well, happy birthday, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. Did you guys see that Cuba now has a direct flight to Houston?
Yes, I believe it starts later this year, right?
How cool is that? We get a chance to go over there and get some Cuban sandwiches, some original Cuban sandwiches. My favorite.
That's what you're excited
My
about?
favorite thing in the world.
This guy's thinking about sandwiches. I'm thinking maybe a good cigar.
I'm thinking a good, legitimate Cuban sandwich. But BB, you said when you went to Cuba, they don't actually sell Cuban sandwiches over there.
Well, you got to remember, we have a lot of ingredients here that they don't have in Cuba.
Yeah.
So they really do have a lack of their own cultural food because they don't have all the ingredients to make it properly. So a Cuban sandwich here is very different than a Cuban sandwich in Havana. It's not the same.
I'm gonna be upset if I go get a Cuban sandwich and it doesn't have
it's-
triple meat,
You know, like that,
cheese, and all the other good stuff you get here.
the government quality meat, the one that's like just colored to make it look pink.
Like
Yeah.
some government
That's-
cheese.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
That's
what
what
it's
you get
like.
over there?
That's what you get over there.
I'm
Yeah.
staying here. You guys go to Cuba, I'll stay here.
It's kind of like Mexican food in Mexico. Never
Yeah.
looks like it does here in America.
That's
Definitely
the
not.
thing.
Yeah.
If you go to Mexico, the food over there is different, but in my opinion, it's better. It tastes better. It feels authentic when you're over there.
Yeah.
But you're telling me if I go to Cuba, I can't get a Cuban sandwich. But I mean, I get it. I'll go to Florida. That's it. That's the closest thing to Cuba anyway.
There's
right?
a lot more reasons to go to Cuba than just the sandwiches.
Not if you ask me, buddy.
I will say, I as a person who's lived there, it's an amazing country. I think it's really exciting that we're gonna have a direct flight.
Yeah, it really is.
That's really cool. Right now, you got to jump through hoops. You got to go to Cancun or another country, fly through there into
Right.
Cuba. So to be able to just hop on a flight, boom, be there in 2 hours.
Man, what is that going to do for their economy? That's crazy.
Well, they have a lot of tourism already. So believe it or not, just because it's not American tourism, they get a lot of Russian tourism. They have a ton of Chinese tourism.
Yeah.
That's basically what their economy is right now,
Mhm.
is tourism, and then I guess sugarcane every.
Isn't that crazy? I didn't even really think about that, and just goes to show how what's the word called, centric, I guess, Americans are. Because
Yep.
if I'm not thinking about it, there's not tourists going there.
That's true. Yeah.
If I'm not
Yeah.
tourist, if I'm not a tourist, then nobody's a tourist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad we're reestablishing that
Yeah.
relationship.
And what is that going to do for real estate, you think?
Oh, it's pretty incredible because over there they have rules that real estate can't be privately owned by a foreigner, and they're real strict on that. Very, very, very strict. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do because they've got to allow some type of foreign investment to come in,
Mhm.
which is what they did with the Chinese, and then they did that also with Venezuela. But they don't actually own anything. They can put the money in, they can make profit, but they want to keep the land Cuban. So we'll see how that plays out because Americans were not. If I'm going to put
We're
my
not
money
used
into
to that.
something,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
own
it.
We
you
want to
know?
own it for
Well,
sure.
you can't own property in Mexico either on the coastal lines, not unless you're a Mexican citizen.
Yeah,
That's
you gotta
true.
be a citizen.
Wow, I
That's
didn't
true.
know that. I
Yeah,
wasn't
'cause
aware of
remember
that.
I looked into it. I thought about
That's
buying
right, that's right.
a vacation rental.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I
Yeah,
didn't
the
know
banks
that.
have to hold a note, or you have to find a Mexican citizen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy because I was born in Mexico, but when I became a citizen of the United States, I lost my citizenship there. And when I tried to buy property in Mexico, that's one of the biggest problems I ran into. They were like, well, sorry, you can't buy here. I'm like, dude, I'm Mexican. I was born here. I could buy whatever I want.
You should have been able to get dual citizenship.
Yeah, you can.
So I guess some countries offer that, and maybe you can apply.
Mexico has it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have it. So
Yeah,
I guess I lost it.
I recently found that out when I went with the immigration attorney when I was having other problems with my immigration, and he said, well, you know, you can go to the consulate and schedule your appointment, and you can get your Mexican passport. And I didn't know that. I thought that was pretty cool. He said, next time you go to Mexico, literally you just go straight through. No stamps, no anything, and it's just like you're a Mexican citizen.
So you'd be kidnapped like one too, right?
You know, I actually wanted to go over there and buy something because you can get property like for example, when I went to Colombia, you could buy an apartment for like $40,000, and that apartment here would run you no less. And by an apartment, I mean like a condo style, place. 1,000 square feet, $40,000. It would nothing you could buy here would cost you less than 120 grand for the same type of amenities that you get there. And I thought, well, I'll furnish it and I'll rent it out through this company that we started using called Airbnb.
Yeah, and I remember 3 years ago, Airbnb, nobody knew about it. Now
it's everywhere.
Multi-billion-dollar company. Everybody I know uses Airbnb, and it's funny because later on in the episode, we're actually going to discuss the legalities behind Airbnb. Well, are people using them the right way?
And the thing is, what happened with us is we bought a vacation rental here in Kima, and we had tremendous amount of success.
Yeah.
And then we ran into some legal issues. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I know we want to figure out what's happening with Airbnb. That's a phenomenal option for sellers who maybe can't sell. It's also a great exit strategy for people that are looking to hold.
It is.
If that's something that you guys have thought about, let's talk about what the legal aspects of that actually look like, because you would be surprised how much money you can make, but how much trouble you can run into. And we're going to talk about what we ran into here in just a second.
Just after the break. We'll be back on the Ruckus.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express, who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Hey, Houston real estate agents. This is Alan Hernandez, broker at White Picket Realty. I want to let you know that when you're ready to stop working your real estate career and start building a real estate business, Team WPR is the place to be. Not only do we offer real results, real support, and real branding, but furthermore, 80 to 100% commissions of your hard-earned money going back to you. So make sure you reach out to us. Join at teamwpr.com. Again, that's join, JOIN, at teamwpr.com.
Hey everyone, this is David with the House Flipping Network, and if you're like a lot of people, you're probably daydreaming right now about getting to fire your boss. Let me tell you about an exciting opportunity for you to do just that. If you've been looking to get into real estate investing or flipping homes, the House Flipping Network provides coaching and consultation services for people looking to grow a real estate investment business. If you're interested in more information, please reach out to me at david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus. David, how's the weather out there, and how's it going to be this weekend?
Guess what, guys? It's going to be another hot weekend.
We got a scorcher.
We got a scorcher, guys. Yep. High 90s, 110 heat index. Just stay inside. Go to some of our open houses. It's going to be cool there.
Yes. We have open houses all over the city this weekend, and they all have AC. Most of them have AC.
Yeah.
A couple of them.
Some of us have had AC issues here in the office lately.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy because in the beginning of of the previous month, June, we had probably 2 or 3 houses just literally give out in terms of AC
units,
and we had to go over there and replace them. And that's just part of every summer for us. But we were talking about Airbnb and what happens and what goes on with that. So I want to bring you guys back to that subject, because last summer or 2 summers ago, we bought the condo on Kima and we set it up through Airbnb.
Yeah.
And we did phenomenal. It was one of the best investments we ever made. We leased it out for, what was it, like $100 or $125 a night?
I mean, we just did it according to, there was a Hilton down the street. And so what I did is I went over there and I pulled their pricing schedule, because they go 6 months ahead. So they know exactly what they're going to be charging every day for the next 6 months, unless, they have a day where they reduce their price or something. But I got that pricing schedule. And so I wanted to be comparable to a 2-bedroom suite at the Hilton.
Yeah.
And they were renting for about $175. So I said, okay, well, we'll come in at $125, undercut them. We don't have all the amenities that a hotel does, but we have a lot of them. And I think that this will work.
Yeah. And we were surprised to see how well it did work. I mean, a condo that we could have probably leased for, $1,000 or $1,200 a month max, we were easily pulling in maybe between $2,500 and $3,000 a month.
Oh, and that was on a low month. And when we were booked up every day, we were getting between $4,000 and $5,000 a month on that place.
Wow.
And during the holidays, people were willing to pay almost anything to stay somewhere other than a hotel. Because I remember somebody stayed there the week of Thanksgiving, and they took the whole week, and they were paying almost $250 per night.
Yeah.
So that that 1 week was like a $2,000 week.
Imagine that. And our payment on the entire place was like $700, including everything. So
yeah,
it was a phenomenal transaction, until the HOA finds out and says, hey, by the way, in our restrictions, you are not allowed to have short-term leases, so we're suing you. And so we start looking into everything, and we start going and talking to attorneys.
And we fought them legally for about 3 months until it just got the burden of the expenses fighting them started to supersede far but beyond what we were making on it.
Yeah,
and it just didn't make sense anymore at that point. And they were fighting for a permanent injunction.
Yeah,
and once they got the injunction, there was nothing we could do other than continue to do it illegally and then get fined.
So eventually, long story short, we threw in the towel, but we learned a huge lesson.
We learned a lot. Yeah.
And we learned that 1, it works. 2, you can make a ton of money. 3, if you're in a bind, if you're in a rut, you're a seller, you can't sell, you have a phenomenal option there. And what happened with with some of our friends who had houses that they couldn't sell.
Yeah, I know of a few people who've put up their houses on Airbnb now, and they're doing much better than it just sitting there.
Yeah.
And way better than they would doing traditional leasing.
Exactly.
And you got to understand, you can't, not just any house can be an Airbnb. I mean, technically, yes, it can. But if you want to have a successful one, there's got to be perks to the Airbnb. It needs to be in a nice part of town, desirable. It needs to have restaurants around it. You got to think hotel.
Yeah.
So if you're out in the boonies and in the middle of Cyprus somewhere where there's nobody looking, no one goes to be a tourist in Cyprus,
Yeah.
then you're not going to be able to be as successful as you would if you had your Airbnb right next to downtown.
I'm getting ready to actually list one right next to U of H.
That's pretty good.
You think so?
Yeah.
There's not a single one within like 3 miles.
Yeah, I think that with the amount of parents that come in and U of H becoming less of a commuter campus and more of people living there, it's becoming a bigger school. I think that's a great idea.
Well, look, I ran the rental comps. I can get probably it's a 1,000 square foot house. It's a tiny little bungalow, and we've put in a ton of money to make it real nice. But I can get probably $1,200 a month in rent there. And if I can just get 20, 25 days a month leased out, I'm making $3,000 a month, and my payment's like $650. So imagine the cash flow on that.
No, it's ridiculous. It really is.
I'm doing the numbers on that, and I'm thinking, how many of these do you need to make a real living off of these? You don't need that many.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, if you had 10 of those, you're in decent shape, and it's not hard to pick up 10 of those and get them running right. I mean, the hardest part is managing them, because you have to have someone clean them every time someone leaves. Go in there, replace everything.
You got to clean the sheets, got to clean the towels. You got to have shampoo. The really nice Airbnbs, I mean, David and I stayed in one in New Orleans, and this girl had like muffins in there,
really?
fresh coffee.
Oh, it was awesome.
This was an amazing Airbnb. I mean,
Really?
I felt like I was in a true bed and breakfast.
And guess what? As soon as we were going to head back to New Orleans, the first place we looked for was that place.
Yeah, we looked for that before
Really?
a hotel or anything
Yeah.
else.
What did she do? She just bought you guys muffins, and
No,
that's
it was
it?
just
That's
a
how she
cool.
bought your
It
business.
was a cool little place.
Leave it to this guy to be sold on
Hey,
just muffins.
Come on, man! You
muffins,
wanted to
Do
go
you
to
see
Cuba
that?
for a sandwich.
Do you see that?
The muffin man. Come on now.
Obviously.
I like the chips, the spicy
The
crawdad,
Cajun
Cajun
crawdaddy.
crawdad chips she left us. I'll always remember those. Thank
Zaps,
you.
right?
Yep.
Look at that. That's all it takes to buy your business. I love it, man. So hopefully with this thing that's happening now with Airbnb, not all of us get completely blocked from being able to continue this exit strategy, because it is a phenomenal exit strategy, and not a lot of people know about it. And the people that do know about it are making great money from it. It gives us, a third or fourth or fifth option that normally wasn't available.
When you have to start to think about what are the problems that might come up with an Airbnb, and we were just looking at one, and we were talking about it during the break.
Yes.
These people, they rented it. It's an $8 million house. They rented it out on Airbnb, and the people that rented it throw this Wolf of Wall Street type party out there. I mean, they just go wild.
With the midgets and everything.
The midgets wearing a 4th of July attire.
They actually did it.
Okay, I'm a little jealous. I've always wanted to throw a party like that. Seriously.
But this is a true story, and they
With
did
the marching
like
band and everything.
$1 million worth of damage to the place.
There was 1,000 people there. They were standing around the pool, and the pool started caving in into
Oh
the
my
water.
goodness!
No way.
Yeah, so I mean, they found condoms there. They found it, and of course, now the guy who rented it out is refusing to pay.
Sure.
So the guy who
Because
rented
there's
it
an
out,
insurance policy in place, isn't there?
I
Doesn't Airbnb have an insurance policy in place?
Airbnb does provide you with certain stays and with certain guests. You have to look that up on your own, and you have to know, is this guest going to be provided with the $1 million policy or not? So sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't.
We got a couple of questions and comments, people interested in the Airbnb stuff. Maybe we can
Awesome.
tackle it in the next segment.
We're going to
Yeah.
tackle those here when we get right back.
Yeah, we'll talk about some more of the horror stories of owning an Airbnb.
Yeah.
And why is it that people are actually making so much money?
Yep.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express, who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Hey Houston real estate agents, this is Alan Hernandez, broker at White Picket Realty. I want to let you know that when you're ready to stop working your real estate career and start building a real estate business, Team WPR is the place to be. Not only do we offer real results, real support, and real branding, but furthermore, 80 to 100% commissions of your hard-earned money going back to you. So make sure you reach out to us. Join at teamwpr.com. Again, that's join, JOIN, at teamwpr.com.
Hey everyone, this is David with the House Flipping Network, and if you're like a lot of people, you're probably daydreaming right now about getting to fire your boss. Let me tell you about an exciting opportunity for you to do just that. If you've been looking to get into real estate investing or flipping homes, the House Flipping Network provides coaching and consultation services for people looking to grow a real estate investment business. If you're interested in more information, please reach out to me at david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we're back on the Realty Ruckus. We got a really hot topic today talking about turning a rental property into an Airbnb or a short-term rental. And we actually had a couple of questions during the break. David, you want to read some of those to us so we can answer them?
Well, Abigail, she asked about the HOA, how much they were trying to fine you guys, or I guess what the consequences of having those short-term rental?
You know, it wasn't the actual fines that were a killer for us. It was the litigation cost that went along with the fines.
Yeah, absolutely. So for that one, the HOA didn't actually have the right to fine. It wasn't in their bylaws that they could give you a fine, but the legal cost of fighting them. So they actually filed a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So there, right there alone was $5,000 just to go into the lawsuit and go and fight it. And then you're talking about once they had the injunction, because they won the permanent injunction. They knew the judge. They'd done this a couple of times already. They'd been through the whole shebang. And once they did that, I believe the fine was like a daily fine for every day that you violate. And that's from the injunction itself. That's like a court fine, not an actual HOA fine. So it would have added up really quickly had we continued to do it, use it as a short-term rental.
So I think what the reason why we ended up throwing in the towel is because in 1 year worth of fighting them, we were looking at spending like $20,000 or $30,000 in attorney's fees, and obviously we weren't making that much to cover all of those fees, or maybe we would have lost a little bit. So it didn't make sense for us to just keep going at it if we were going to go at it at a loss. So instead of fighting it, we said, okay, forget it, let's settle. We'll sell it. We sold it. We made money, so we were still happy. Plus, we made all the money in the time that we did hold it, which was like 2 years. So it worked out. But long story short, if you're going to go that route, you probably want to make sure that it's not against your deed restrictions, because that was the one thing that kept us from being able to fight it.
Is there any other questions?
Well, it's not questions. A lot of people chiming in. We got Big Red, Mr. Curtis Warden, saying NRG Stadium
Big Red,
the best area this year for Super Bowl. That's actually a pretty good.
Yeah, actually, I know a couple of people, and I'm not saying go and do this. Yeah. But I know a couple of people that are signing 6-month leases at the apartments that are right there, so that they can do the Airbnb during the Super Bowl stay. Wow. And they intend to make so much money during those 2 weeks for Super Bowl. It's the week before and the week of that apparently is real hot. And they're going to make so much money in those 2 weeks. It's going to cover the entire 6-month lease that they're signing. And they're going to make money.
Phenomenal. You know, the hardest part that I've run into with the one that I'm setting up right now near U of H is actually furnishing the thing.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to go out and go to like Ashley Furniture or one of these high-end places and put in a bunch of really nice stuff, because I know eventually it's just going to get beat up.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things I found was this place off of Richmond and Chimney Rock, and then they'll sell you stuff from Executive Rentals that's already been I guess used.
Which store is that?
I want to say it starts with a C. I'll look it up.
Is that Castle Furniture?
No, it's something else.
What is it at? I'll try to look it up.
It's Chimney Rock and Richmond.
Okay.
And we went over there yesterday. You can buy an entire set. So it's like a dining room, a living room, and a bedroom set, and it's like $1,800 for everything.
Wow, that sounds ridiculously cheap.
It is ridiculously cheap, but I'm putting it in a house that's possibly worth 150 to 200 grand. It's not a really expensive house. The reason why I think it'll work is because it's so close to downtown.
Yeah.
And all I need to do is just provide the stuff that people need. A couch, a table, a mattress. And the mattresses I am buying nice mattresses because I want people to feel comfortable when they're sleeping.
Okay, it looks like I got Court Furniture Rental Clearance.
That's what it is.
That's
what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
You
before.
guys check that place out. It's actually a really good place. I'm budgeting about $2,500 to literally furnish this entire house. Now, keep in mind this is a 1,000 square. It's tiny house.
Yeah.
But I'm budgeting $2,500, including dishes, including silverware, including everything.
Yeah.
So that it can actually be up and running. Now, hopefully, I don't run into a scenario where I'm having to face deed restriction problems there. I've checked the deed restrictions. There's nothing that's holding me from doing that.
Yeah.
But other people are running into issues, and it likely has to do a lot with not paying the right taxes, right? Isn't that what the problem really is?
Well, so let's go New York right now. They have a huge Airbnb problem.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the hotels aren't happy about it because everyone in New York is now, if they have a 2-bedroom, well, guess what? That just became 1 bedroom for me and 1 Airbnb.
Yeah.
And the people are making a lot of money that way over there. So the city just passed an ordinance saying, hey, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go after the company because it's too hard to go after every single individual. So now they're saying, well, we're going to go after Airbnb. We're going to go after VRBO and all of the other vacation rental ones and just we're going to fine them if they allow you to put a rental that hasn't been properly registered. So that got me really curious, and it got me thinking, what does it actually look like in Houston? What if we were doing this the right way? And by the right way, I mean everything legal with the city of Houston.
Registering.
Yeah, what would that actually look like? And so, first of all, I didn't realize the city is very clear in their ordinances on what's a short term and what's a long term. So anything that's less than 30 days, you're considered a hotel. It's no longer considered a lease in the city of Houston. And if you're going to be charging $15 or more per day, then you're supposed to be registered with the city of Houston as a hotel motel, which now would take away everyone who's in a subdivision, because every single subdivision has a regulation that says residential use only. And now you would be considered commercial use. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is your permitting. So if everyone did it all the right way, they would have to go get the certificate of occupancy and so they'd have to have sprinkler systems because it's considered a commercial. So every house without a sprinkler system would fail now. And you would have to have all of the right regulations of any other hotel. You'd have to have a ramp for wheelchair accessibility. You'd have to have ADA approved toilets, ADA approved sinks. So when you start looking at why are hotels charging more and why are these Airbnbs able to charge so little but make so much money, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
It's all of these red, strings that everyone has to cross. The other part that I found
that the owners aren't having to go through.
Oh yeah, the
They're
owners
just ignoring them.
Yeah, they just literally are jumping over the red tape. This is the one though that I found really interesting. So the state of Texas says, we don't care what your local city laws are. If you're doing this, you owe us a 6% hotel franchise fee.
Yeah.
So that's like the tax that the state charges. Well, if you're paying all of the taxes, there's 6% to the state of Texas you're supposed to pay, 7% to the city of Houston that you're supposed to pay, 2% to Harris County, and then another 2%, which Harris County just labels as Harris Houston Sport Tax.
Nice.
And so total, I mean, you're looking at, what is that, 13, that's 17% of whatever you take in that you're supposed to be paying right back out.
So you wouldn't be making as much money if you were actually paying the taxes that are involved.
Yeah.
The
not
problem
even
is
close
with you
to it.
registering, then you actually are falling within those guidelines and laws, and you have to adhere to all those. So this is a kind of tricky situation because there's probably no real case law on it yet. I don't know. What do you think, Ashley?
Well, I'm sure there is case law on it. It's just like with anything else, Uncle Sam gets his.
Yeah. Yeah. And when he doesn't, people get angry.
Exactly.
And they come knocking at your door.
Well, and it's really interesting to me, the fact that how do you stop that many people? Because if I go on Airbnb right now and I just type in Houston, I'm going to get a couple hundred Airbnbs right off the bat. If you're the city of Houston, one, you don't have the address. You have a dot on a map that shows you supposedly where it's supposed to be, but you don't know where the address is. You can't really confirm the homeowner. You can look at who the person is on Airbnb, but does that really confirm the homeowner? So it starts to become kind of a difficulty in figuring out who are all these hundreds of people doing it. And it kind of leans towards the side of maybe I just shouldn't register, maybe forget about all that and make them come and get it. Now, what could be the repercussions of doing something like that, Ashley?
Well, basically repercussions is they find out you're doing it, then they go after you for back or they go after you criminally. Because there is no such thing as debtor's prison unless you owe the government money or child support. So they can go back and they can penalize you. There's for instance, if you have your franchise, if you're operating franchise illegally, number one, they could shut you down. And number two, they could fine you. And, the first time they'll probably give you a slap on the wrist. Second and third time it gets, subsequently harder.
Yeah.
Just like franchise tax. Everybody pays franchise tax. And then if you don't pay it, you forfeit your right to do business.
Yeah, and it says there, it's also on the county's website that you're supposed to be filing your quarterly reports, wage reports as well. And they care about the taxes. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. They care about getting their tax money. They don't care that you're running it illegally or not. But that's the problem is if you start to file with the state, you start to file with the county. Now the city of Houston says, hey, wait a minute. you're running an illegal hotel. That can't be used for commercial. You don't have a certificate of occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all like these other problems that can arise,
Definitely. And it's crazy because you're right. There's hundreds of people doing this, but maybe they don't even realize how many laws they're breaking, how many problems they can get into.
Yeah. The ones that I find really interesting, and you see these quite a bit, is just like I was saying for the Super Bowl, is people with apartments.
Yeah.
And it's people, who they live here in Houston, but their job has them traveling 1 or 2 weeks out of the month. So they said, hey, I'm going to make use of my apartment.
Yeah.
I'll put it up on Airbnb. But you're in violation of so many more things than just a regular homeowner. Because now you're subleasing illegally through your apartment. It's a short-term rental.
Most apartments don't let you sublease.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I guess you're getting the entire complex in trouble. Is that how it would work? Is it just you? Is it the complex that takes a hit?
Well, it's not the complex, because obviously the complex only rents out to the individual. So it'd be the person, the tenant,
Yeah.
because the complex would turn around and find the tenant and basically hold them in violation of lease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's tricky. It's tricky for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing where this is all going to go. Mostly in like the big cases that are happening in like New York, and then we hear some stuff happening in San Francisco as
right.
well. I want to see where all that is going to go, but I can tell your eyes right now that until we know for sure where this is all going,
Right.
I have an Airbnb near U of H, and I'm going to milk it. I'm going to see what happens with it. And I think if you're a seller out there and you run into a bind and you can't sell for one reason or another, it's certainly an exit strategy that's worth looking into. But like with all exit strategies, there's risk involved.
Yeah.
There's plenty of risk involved, and make sure you guys have the right insurance policy on that. Please don't go out and get a homeowner's policy and then stick an Airbnb person in there, because we know from our conversations that's not going to work. If your house burns down, you're in trouble. So
what kind of policy would you need for a short-term rental? What would cover you?
Basically, hotel policy, hotel, motel. So essentially, if you're going to have a short-term policy where it's day in, day out, you're going to have to get a hotel insurance.
Maybe a vacancy policy. What do you think?
Well, you can get business interruption insurance, but I mean, that's always one thing in case you don't have it vacated out.
Yeah.
For the most part, that only covers natural disasters, though.
That's true. Yeah. Just a fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's hard when you actually start talking about what insurance covers. And we've run into this scenario a lot of times where we run into an issue where we've had, these crazy scenarios, houses flooding, whatnot, and the other. And we look at our insurance policies and it's like, well, it's not covered, Yeah. And I mean, we've gone through that several times in our business.
It always feels like it's not covered.
And
it always feels like
every
that.
time we've gone into it, we always run into that's not going to be covered, So insurance, I think, is a tricky subject, and we probably need to have another segment on that, and maybe bring in another Chuck Norris or Chuck Norris himself to get in here and really explain what the heck do we need insurance for anyway, besides just in case the house burns down. Anyway, we want to talk a little bit more on the legal aspects here in just a bit, and I have an interesting contract to present to you.
Okay.
Because I want you to take a look at this scenario, and I'm going to give you guys a brief idea on what it actually looks like and what happened. So we have a house. We remodeled it. We put it on the market. We got a contract on it, right? We went all the way till the day of closing, and then come to find out the property didn't appraise by $10,000.
Okay.
All right. Then the buyer says, well, I don't want the house anymore. And we're like, wait a minute, we're willing to just knock the price down. Now they want to keep the earnest money. All right. So we have to figure out who gets the chance to keep that earnest money. We're going to do that live. We're having a little discussion on that because this is a scenario that happens all the time.
Right.
Let's talk earnest money when we get back.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Hey, Houston real estate agents. This is Alan Hernandez, broker at White Picket Realty. I want to let you know that when you're ready to stop working your real estate career and start building a real estate business, Team WPR is a place to be. Not only do we offer real results, real support, and real branding, but furthermore, 80 to 100% commissions of your hard-earned money going back to you. So make sure to reach out to us. Join at teamwpr.com. Again, that's join, JOIN, at teamwpr.com.
Hey everyone, this is David with the House Flipping Network, and if you're like a lot of people, you're probably daydreaming right now about getting to fire your boss. Let me tell you about an exciting opportunity for you to do just that. If you've been looking to get into real estate investing or flipping homes, the House Flipping Network provides coaching and consultation services for people looking to grow a real estate investment business. If you're interested in more information, please reach out to me at david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus.
And we're going to be
Beautiful
talking.
Friday.
We're going to be talking some awesome legal stuff right now, and this happens to realtors all the time.
Right.
And realtors and sellers, homeowners get into this little tiff day in, day out. Who gets to keep the earnest money because of something not going right with the underwriting? Now, if you look at the third-party financing addendum, everybody, if you're in real estate and you don't know what this third-party financing addendum says, just stop now, all right? Or call me and I'll send it to you and I'll explain it to you because you need to know how this works, all right? So third-party financing addendum, if you look at the section, which is going to be, it's going to be section B, number 2, it says that the property approval will be deemed to have been obtained when the property is satisfied seller's underwriting requirements for the loan, including but not limited to appraisal, insurability, and lender required repairs. That's the section that this buyer is using to say that he's entitled to his earnest money. He's saying, look, the property didn't meet my underwriter's
Lending
requirements.
Right.
So I get a chance to get my earnest money back. Now, we are saying, well, wait a minute. We're willing to knock that price down to what it appraised for, therefore created remedy. Therefore, if you still want to back out, you owe us the earnest money. So the question is, who's wrong, who's right? Maybe no one is. Maybe this has to go to a small claims court. And what happens to the earnest money in between now and then? Who gets to keep it if we continue fighting over it? And at the end of the day, do we just end up having to release it anyway because we have another contract coming in?
Well, the whole thing about earnest money is earnest money is liquidated damages.
Yeah.
So either A, you sue in law or equity, specific performance, or B, you sue for the earnest money.
Yeah.
And that's considered liquidated damages. Now, in your case, you've got both. You got two sections of that section. The first is basically the buyer's credit approval time. There's a little blank there that says that you must basically you have within X amount of days, whatever that's filled in there, to approve the buyer. Then you got the lender problems to where if it does not meet the lender's property specific guidelines, then the buyer can cancel at any given time, and then the earnest money goes back to the buyer. So in your situation, I guess it's who moves first.
Yeah.
In other words, if the property doesn't meet the appraisal and they cancel the contract, clearly money goes back to the buyer. Now, if they come back and says, hey, it doesn't meet the appraisal, and now the seller lowers the price, now it's harder to say it didn't meet the lender guidelines because now the lender just basically does a loan for that much less, and the price is that much less, and so it should meet the appraisal requirements.
Here's the thing that we decided to do, and let me know what you think. We decided to tell the buyer, fine, if you want to back out of the contract, no big deal, but we want to hear it from your lender. We want something from your lender that says why it did not meet the underwriting requirements.
Right.
And then once we have that letter coming from the lender, and if it's something that's true, then we can determine if you actually are owed the earnest money or not.
Right. It's better if you're the seller. It's better to ask. I want a written explanation on why the contract's not going forward.
Yeah.
Let them pick up the reason, because if they say, well, the buyer didn't have the cash reserves, or the buyer, didn't qualify for a second home, or maybe the buyer had bought a car.
Yeah.
Then if they put that in writing, guess what?
That's not my fault.
Right.
That's not the seller's fault.
Right.
And you know what's crazy? I actually think that's what's happening in this scenario, and they're just trying to hide that, and they're out of their buyer approval timeline. They're out of so we gave them 28 days, so they're out of that. They can't use that as a loophole. So they're just trying to figure out a way out. And I get that. And what happens in our industry is the realtors end up taking a lot of the hit. They try to be their buyers or their sellers representative legally, even sometimes even playing attorneys, and they go in there and kind of mess things up. Instead of clear things up, they kind of just muddle the water a little bit.
Right.
And that's what's happening here. Is this realtor thinks he actually knows the law. In the way that he writes and has talked to us, and we check everyone. So we know this guy's closed 2 or 3 transactions in his lifetime, and now he's trying to tell his buyer that he's entitled to the earnest money. And when he's getting a rebuttal from us, he's looking bad. And so he's trying to help himself. And we were talking about that, and just in a discussion, we realized how many realtors go out there and do that. They play attorney, and instead of helping the cause, instead of actually trying to close the transaction, which is what his job is, to get the transaction closed, he is actually getting in his own way, keeping the transaction from closing, and obviously walking away with nothing, and a ticked off client, because that client's going to be pretty upset when he loses that earnest money, and so let's just say that we continue to battle it out. That earnest money sits at your title company. What happens to that money?
Well, essentially what happens is when one party makes a demand for the earnest money, the title agent will send a demand to the other side saying, hey, will you release the money? If they don't respond within 15 days, you can release the money as a title company. If they do respond and they say, I'm not going to do it, then if it goes to court, the losing party can be liable for the treble damages. Mm-hmm. So if the earnest money is $5,000, they can be liable for $15,000 plus cost of court. Now, small claims court is limited to $10,000 maximum price. So if it's a lot of money, you may end up in big boy court with the district courts, et cetera. So small claims court, you don't have to have an attorney. You can represent yourself. Big boy court, you can represent yourself, but you wouldn't be doing yourself any justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ready to go to court? It's $2,600. It's not that big a deal, but I don't like it when people do this kind of stuff. Here's the thing. I removed my staging from this property. Now I have to show it vacant. It doesn't show the same. I may not get the same offer. I may not get the same price point that I was originally shooting for, because I was told this deal was going to close, and the day of, all of a sudden it doesn't close, and there's all these issues that come about, and now all of a sudden this guy wants out and he wants his money back. So, as a seller, not acting as a broker or a realtor, as a seller, I feel like I should be entitled to that money. I feel like, hey, you just caused me some real heartache. I took the property off the market for 30 days, 45 days. I took my staging away because you told me it was ready to go. And now you're backing out and you want your money back. You should at least pay for the time that I've had to hold it, plus, the expenses that I've incurred while doing so. So, I can see when this happens to other sellers, why they would get upset.
Right.
And unfortunately, what we've ended up doing down the road is because that earnest money is at the title company, and when we bring in a new buyer, the title company won't actually close it with that other original earnest money in place. Then we end up having to release it anyway.
Well, what happens is the contract is not recorded. So by law, the same title company has earnest money can't close on the escrow. So sometimes you may have to flip it to another title company. I've told several clients to do that because a title company can only have escrow, on one file. So you just go to a title company down the road. I mean, there's one on every block. So it's kind of the same scenario on your end. sometimes they say be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you go after the earnest money, like in the same situation as yours, if that buyer cancels your deal, then turns around and buys a similar house, similar square footage right across the street. Sometimes these houses are built in tract homes.
Yeah.
And then turns around and gets $30,000 less from the seller. Now all of a sudden it destroyed your appraisal.
Mm.
So where you could sue the guy for $30,000 because of the breach of contract, by taking the earnest money, you have forfeited your right to sue, which means you can't sue specific performance. You can't do any of that. So sometimes be careful what you ask for, what you wish for, because by getting the earnest money, you lose everything else.
Right. Because those are your liquidated damages.
Those are your liquidated
You're
damages.
saying, look, that's the money that I want. That's the money that I'm taking. I'm not trying to chase you down any further.
Just make sure sometimes specific performance will make them go. Like, for instance, your house.
Yeah.
Sometimes the appraisal comes in low. A buyer gets the jitters.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it's a bad property. It just means the buyer gets the jitters. And if you have an inexperienced realtor that lets the buyer kind of run with the jitters, most people, a home is the single largest purchase that most people will ever buy.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for a reason to get out. And they're looking for a sign, from above saying, oh, hey, it didn't appraise. It must have been a sign. So it's a scary deal. But so sometimes you have to use that specific performance to where it's saying, hey, if you don't buy the property, I'm going to force you to buy the property. In reality, courts never force a buyer to buy a homestead, but they don't know that.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a matter of a push, and that's all they need. They want the house. It's not you're being bad.
The problem that they'll face is that they'll have to go get an attorney to represent them.
Right.
So now they have to make an additional expense.
That's exactly right.
So the $2,500 that they would have paid you, they're having to pay to an attorney.
Right.
And therefore they're looking at it like, man, I should just let it go.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. Jumping into another legal scenario, that's a lot of earnest money. So there's a property, and the original owner builds a fence. Okay, the property gets foreclosed on. So now the lender takes over the property, and all of a sudden the neighbor starts calling and saying, hey, that fence that you built, which obviously they didn't, it was built by the previous person, you actually built it on my fence. So you put your pickets on our posts, and it's making our posts fall over. If you don't come take your pickets down, I'm going to grab my crowbar and just start ripping the pickets off because you put it on my fence.
Right.
We run into these fence issues all the time. Neighbors fight over fences. I think that's like the one single thing that neighbors mostly fight about.
Fences and trees.
It's crazy. Yeah. And so, our stand was, look, it's not your fence. He's like, well, yeah, it is. I built it. It's on the property line. It's not really yours or his. Well, no, I built it within my property line. Come to find out, he built it in an easement, and it's a Heights property. This is a real case, by the way, guys. We didn't make this up.
But I'm curious to know. So, if it was on the property line, what does he have the right to just grab a crowbar and go rip pickets off?
No, because it's owned by both. It doesn't matter who builds the fence. It's owned by both. Now, it's kind of funny. Now, if he built the fence too close, guess what he's done? He's created you an adverse possession claim.
Yeah.
So, most people, you assume where you build the fence to extend your property line. If you build it less than your property line, you're giving that property to your neighbor.
Yep.
So, any listeners, don't ever do that. Yeah. Likewise, if you build onto their property, then they have the right, with notice to basically tear it down then.
Yeah. Because now they've encroached.
They've encroached.
That's right.
In fact, they should tear it down, but they should basically do it right, and they may have to involve the police, which I definitely suggest, because nowadays with concealed gun holders, somebody comes over there and some people just shoot first and ask questions second. So by all means, don't just go there and just bull down their fence, because you may upset them, and that's not very neighborly. There's ways to do it, but ultimately, if they're on your property, you can stop them.
Yeah. So, but what about, so in this scenario, it's in an easement. And so it's actually in between, the city owns that easement. It's not anybody's property. So who owns that fence, and can he go out there and just rip off the pickets?
Contact the city. The city will rip off everything, because if they're in the city's easement, the city will actually basically send them a notice and saying, hey, If you don't tear us down, we'll tear it down for you, and they'll send that guy the bill.
And that's for but they'll go out there and tear down the whole fence.
They're tearing down the whole fence.
Yeah, they're not worried about just the one side of the pickets or the other.
Yeah, I mean, they go down there and they just tear down this fence because the city's easement is the city's easement, and they have the right, or maybe a utility easement, it may be a sewage easement, whatever type of easement it is. I mean, they have the right to use that, and you can't put a fence over their easement.
So if my neighbor comes over there and rips off my pickets that are on there, do I call the police?
You know, I would just because, quite frankly, it's just anytime there's a civil matter like that, always call the police like that.
Okay.
Which is funny because that's exactly what I told the guy.
That's what we figured, yeah. But it was,
you can go over there and use your crowbar and tear it down, but I'm just going to file a police report,
right?
And then now you're going to be looking at potential charges for either vandalism or destruction of private property, or I don't know what it is, but you're going to be in trouble. Anyway, we run into that scenario all the time, and that's why we thought we'd share it with you guys. But we have some other really interesting stuff that we want to discuss here in just a minute. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be right back.
Hey Houston, this is Alan Hernandez, and I want to remind you guys to visit our friends over at Quest IRA to learn everything there is to learn about investing with your IRA. Now, if you haven't been over there recently, you have to check them out. They have free educational classes, networking opportunities, the ability to tap into $1 billion for your real estate investing deals. These are the guys to know when it comes to learning about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure you visit them and check them out over at www.questira.com. Again, that's questira.com.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express, who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Hey, Houston real estate agents. This is Alan Hernandez, broker at White Picket Realty. I want to let you know that when you're ready to stop working your real estate career and start building a real estate business, Team WPR is a place to be. Not only do we offer real results, real support, and real branding, but furthermore, 80 to 100% commissions of your hard-earned money going back to you. So make sure you reach out to us. Join at teamwpr.com. Again, that's join, JOIN, at teamwpr.com.
Hey everyone, this is David with the House Flipping Network, and if you're like a lot of people, you're probably daydreaming right now about getting to fire your boss. Let me tell you about an exciting opportunity for you to do just that. If you've been looking to get into real estate investing or flipping homes, the House Flipping Network provides coaching and consultation services for people looking to grow a real estate investment business. If you're interested in more information, please reach out to me at david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on the Realty Ruckus. We are going into our last segment here, guys. It's always a very, very difficult time for me.
I know, right? We do have a lot of fun doing this. It's awesome, man. We get a chance to enjoy what we do and love it, man. It's a phenomenal way to spend a lifetime. It was funny because I was telling Brandon. Brandon was driving me around looking at houses yesterday.
Nice.
You chauffeur now?
It was, man, that was the best experience.
Brandon's just looking down right now.
It was an even trade-off though, because he got a chance to drive the Benz.
He gets to drive the Benz.
He gets to drive the Benz, and I get to sit there and email. Yeah. And while he drives me around to look at houses.
Were you in the front seat or back seat?
No, I was in the front seat. Okay. But he did offer to let me sit in the back, and I thought that was very gentleman.
Now you need to get in the little hat.
Yeah.
I would have sat in the back seat.
So I appreciate that. But we want to talk about this. Have you guys seen this thing where the realtor blows up the house? Because he burns it down. Yeah, he burns it down because
allegedly. Because certain people here do not believe it.
I believe it. and it's not there has been many scenarios where I've wanted to blow up a house because of a crazy seller. So, in a way I don't blame this guy if it's true, and on the other hand, I'm like, man, what kind of trouble did this guy get himself into? Can you imagine? So the scenario is the seller decides not to sell, right? This guy's already, I guess, I'm assuming, invested a ton of time, money, effort. And now all of a sudden the seller's like, all right, sorry, we're going to take it off the market, terminate it. And the guy's like, all right, we'll terminate it. We'll terminate the whole thing. And then just lights it on fire. You know, does E&O cover that? What do you think? What happens to that realtor? Besides going to jail, of course.
You're going to go to jail for arson for sure.
You get some arson charges,
Right.
I'm assuming?
I think his brokerage policy would probably cover that.
Yeah.
I mean, because generally it won't cover the broker's intentional torts, but a lot of times somebody like that, you know, there's exclusions, but at the end of the day, there's going to be a claim on the broker, and the broker's insurance carriers can probably pay.
That just scares
That's crazy.
That
Right.
scares the
Right.
you know what out of me.
I didn't expect him to give a straight answer about that, but now I'm worried.
Yeah, because we carry the brokerage policy,
Right.
and you know, it's you can't ever control what the agents or your agents are going to go out there and do. So you may be sitting in front of someone that may look sane, but they may go out there and blow up a house, and now all of a sudden we're liable. We're the
Right.
ones
It's like if you have a bar or a restaurant, you have bouncers, and bouncers get happy beating somebody up.
and that happens.
Eventually they're going to sue the restaurant. They're going to sue the bar, because you're responsible for your employees, even if they do involve something intentionally, because, you know, you had a duty to hire somebody who wasn't so happy to beat somebody up.
Yeah. So we should be checking for arsonists during
Right.
our hiring process. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Just make sure we do a really thorough background check.
And have you ever burned anything down? Anything?
Can we add that to the questions that we asked during the interview process?
I'll make sure to add that on.
What events do we have coming up this weekend, and what events do we have coming up here in the near future?
Okay, so for the weekend, not much going on around town as far as I can see. We do have the Astros facing off against the Athletics at Minute Maid Park. Jim Gaffigan is going to be at the Woodlands Pavilion on Saturday if you want to catch something funny, and the Nirvana Experience at House of Blues as well on Saturday. But Ashley was just reminded us about event you guys got coming up next week.
We got El Big over at Cadillac Bar. El Big, the Big.
And that's
you
Cadillac
guys-
Bar off of I-10 and Shepherd Dorm, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
If you guys have never been to one of Ashley's parties, it's almost like a Wolf of Wall Street party, minus the midgets and the marching band. I mean, it's a phenomenal event. You guys throw one really awesome party.
We are going to have luchadores or guys with the
Luchadores.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
What?
El Gringo over here.
I mean, that's why we call it El Big.
Man, that is awesome. If you guys get a chance, if you guys haven't gotten invited, then you're probably not on the cool list. And you want to reach out to Ashley and his team and find a way into this party and you know, eventually find a way to do business with them, because this is one phenomenal event. Every time I've gone to this event, and this is the first time you've had this one, but you've had others,
Right.
Similar style events. But every time I go to one of your events, I find builders, I find private lenders, I find, you know, people that I end up at some point or another doing business with.
Right.
So I appreciate the fact that you bring all of those people to the table. We have a good time. You have food, you have drinks, and at the end of the day, everyone walks away happy. So,
Right.
By the way, there is a small fee, but it actually goes to charity.
It does. It goes to MD Anderson. So I think it's $10.
Yeah.
So it's not much, but once you get in, it's free drinks and free
food.
food.
Yeah.
You guys got, I
Right.
think I read mariachis.
You can't beat it.
You got the Lucha Libre coming in, and that's on Wednesday the 13th.
Yeah, Wednesday the 13th.
And what time does it start?
Yes.
I have no idea. I think 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a 5 o'clock event.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, guys.
All right. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about this month, July 28th, make sure that you guys literally mark this on your calendars. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a loan officer out there, you definitely want to check out this event. It's sponsored by NAREP and Gallery Furniture. Now, I know you guys probably haven't seen my Facebook post yet, but check it out. Go on there. We have some phenomenal speakers talking about how to build your team this year. And guys, these aren't just like, you know, the guys that just set up their team yesterday. I mean, some of these guys are national guys doing, you know, millions and millions of dollars worth of transactions per month. And we actually got them all in one stage one group, and the board, which as you guys know, I'm now part of the NARET board, is going to be putting on a phenomenal event to teach all of the realtors in Houston and all of the loan officers in Houston how to go from just a one-man band to actually growing a team and doing tons of transactions, and stop worrying about these little onesie twosies. Actually go out there and do some volume.
Yeah.
And it's coming directly from the horse's mouth. I mean, the guys that we're having here, if you guys get a chance to research some of these guys, please do. I mean, we got David Acosta, we got Mario Negron, we got local people as well, people that are doing phenomenally, like Ruby Miranda, Mark Demas, Frankie Bonilla, Ozzy Ramirez, Clifton Saunders. If you guys haven't heard of any of those names, you're obviously not in the industry. But if you are, some of these people, I guarantee you, and they are running circles around you, and you want to find a way to chase them down and find out what they're doing. So make sure you reserve the time. It's Thursday, July 28th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's over at the Gallery Furniture off West Grand Parkway. And man, this place is nice. Have you guys been out there yet? It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. They have sharks, all right? Sharks swimming in tanks while you're walking through there, all right?
That sounds pretty cool.
Not only do you get a chance to learn about building your team, but you get a chance to go out there and see some of this awesome, this awesome place that Gallery Furniture's put together. Free food, we got drinks, we got you name it. It's a full event, and you definitely want to take advantage of going out there and joining us. That's July 28th. Do we have any other events coming up this weekend? I think that's pretty much it.
July 28th from 4 to 6. And is there a cost?
There is a cost. So members are $25. Future members are $40. And then there's sponsorship opportunities as well for those people that have existing teams or existing businesses, and they want to actually be sponsors. A lot of our sponsorship packages will include tickets as well. And a chance to really, rub elbows with Houston's top producers. We're inviting the top 300 realtors and loan officers to this event. So you guys definitely want to make some time to come out and check it out, because that's everyone who's anyone is going to be there. Right. So anyway, guys, that's it for our show. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Ashley, thank you for being here once again, answering all of our awesome legal questions. Guys, thank you for joining us online, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you guys next week. We got a phenomenal week planned next week.
Oh yeah, next Tuesday.
We're gonna be talking about markets, what's happening, where you need to be buying and selling, and give you all the lowdown on that from one of the local experts.
Yeah, you won't want to miss it. Next Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll see you guys on the Ruckus.
Thank you, guys.
This has been the Realty Ruckus. Make sure and join us every Tuesday and Friday for new episodes. Find us on YouTube and Facebook for replays of previous episodes. And as always, keep elevating yourself and keep up your ruckus. Thanks for listening. Realty Ruckus has been brought to you by Smart Pig Media Productions.